there in social media land. Hello there. I'm First Lady Monique Roberts. I am here with Grace Divine Christian Church. And today we're going to broadcast the One Right Choice Movement broadcast. Just to tell you a little bit about the movement, in life where you have a series of choices that you have to make, we believe here at Grace Divine Christian Church that one right choice can lead to many. Just like one wrong choice can lead to many, we believe one right choice can lead to many right choices. I'm here today to talk about depression, and the grip it can have on you, but also the freedom you can have once you learn steps to overcome it. By way of announcements, please like, share this video with your friends and your family. We believe today that somebody is going to get a breakthrough and a deliverance today. So today we have our special guest. His name is Mr. Elvin, and he is going to be just letting us know his experience with depression. What is it? We're going to ask him a few questions just to see what it is and how he was able to get to where he is right now. So again, my name is Monique Roberts, Lady Roberts with Grace Divine Christian Church, Senior Pastor, the Reverend Dr. Sandy G. Roberts. And so this morning I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Elvin. Mr. Elvin, welcome.
Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming. We just want you to just let the people know, just tell them a little bit about yourself before we proceed.
Yeah, so my name is Elvin Aricaega. I'm turning 27 next month, actually. I love working, and I love working on buses and driving. And right now, I'm actually really trying to learn to play the bass guitar more. So, yeah, that's one thing I really enjoy doing. I also want to go start playing sports again pretty soon. So, right now I'm trying to get back in shape and trying to start doing that. I did mention bass guitar. I'm also writing music and composing some songs. Trying to keep my mind busy, as much as I possibly can.
So what kind of sports do you like?
I love football. I love football, soccer, baseball.
Do you like hitting people in football?
Yeah, that's actually the best part. No, I just think sports, it's a healthy way to, to let out some of that, the anger, the will you have in you.
So, just for the listeners out there, what, from your perspective, what is depression? Because a lot of times people just think they're sad or hurry up and get over it. I think depression as a whole is kind of misunderstood, that most people don't even know what it is. They just kind of say, oh, I'm depressed, and don't really know what it is. So from your perspective and from your experience, what is depression?
And it's good that you brought that up, because depression, it's very different for everybody. The official definition of depression is a series of mood, lowering your mood and bad, and so many things can cause depression. In my case, it was several different events in my life that took place. Just to give you a brief history here, the main things that caused me to go through depression was, losing my mom to alcohol and to drugs. She became very seriously involved in all that stuff and getting associated with the wrong people. And it was that took a hit on me. And at a young age, I was around 17 at the time, my siblings were taken away. And I was at that age where I knew what was happening, but I felt powerless because I wasn't of age, to work and take care of them. So, that happened about 10 years ago. And throughout those 10 years, I've had to watch my siblings grow. I mean, they're still in the family, but my little brother has Down syndrome, and he's 25 now, but he's the one that got separated from everybody. And because he had Down syndrome, we couldn't take care of him. I couldn't take care of him because I wasn't of age. And, my mom who got, lost into all the drugs and alcohol. She couldn't take care of me. And it was that sense of hopelessness and powerless that I felt that started slowly leading me to depression. And after all that happened with my mom, I had to talk with her and I told her, I really want to help you. I want to help you overcome whatever it is that you struggle with. And I just started to realize that she just started to change. She started to change, and I felt like she just started to not care anymore. She wasn't caring about us and about me. And one day she just completely went off on me and just started telling me that I love her. Basically, just started saying things that shouldn't. And eventually, I just said, you know what? If you ever want to change, if you ever want to, if you ever need my help, I'll be here to help you. And that's one of the things that caused it. After that, several things happened.
Okay, so I'm understanding that that's a lot for anybody to handle. So what I'm understanding from Mr. Elvin is that depression is not just one thing, it's a series of things. It's a series of emotions, it's a series of things that you feel. Like in my own life, I've gone through some things in my life that caused me to go down that road. But once you understand what it is that you're dealing with, then it's easier for you to be able to kind of handle it and be able to get the help that you need. And so the next question that I have is, what does it do to you, depression? What does it do to you? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there that depression just makes you feel sad all the time. And depending on the kind that you have, that may not be the case. So what did it show up like in your life?
And it's one of those interesting things that, you never really understand until you go through it. Me being, when I was in high school, I was one of those kids that, would never understand it. And I was like, I'm never going to be one of those, that's suffering from depression. And you don't realize that until it hits you. And in my experience, depression, it's not just about being sad, but for me, it kind of took all the things that I loved away. Like, every time I just dreaded waking up. It was one of those, I wake up, I don't want to wake up anymore. And then as you, force yourself to get up and shower, brush your teeth, it's just everything you dread everything. I don't want to work, I don't want to do, I don't want to do anything. And the things that I love to do, like, playing my guitar and doing all those things, they were just not enjoyable. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to see anybody, I didn't want to talk to anybody, and I was just locked in my world, pretty much.
That's interesting how you say you was locked in your own world, because a lot of people don't understand that it kind of boxes you in. Depression kind of boxes you in a little bit. You feel like everybody around you is either looking at you weird or don't care about you, things of that nature, and it can get really heavy. So I know, so if you don't want to walk down this road, that's fine. I just wanted to ask you, like, what was the point in your life where you identified what you were going through as depression?
Right, so, as we mentioned earlier, it's a series of things that happen, and to kind of give you a brief, history of everything besides my mom and all that stuff. I'm actually a twin brother. A lot of people don't know that. But my twin brother actually passed away when he was a baby, so he only lived 9 hours. And, kind of growing up as a kid, I grew up in a strict Catholic home, and my parents, when I kind of my brother was, why he passed away on 9 hours, that's when I really started to feel angry, like angry towards God. Like, why would you take my brother? Especially not giving me any time. Like, why would you take him so early? And, why not me? You know, and those were just little thoughts that I had at night before I prayed. And, thinking back, I think that's where my depression started, but I didn't realize it back then. And, so to this day, that question is unanswered. And, back in 2002, I lost my grandfather. My grandfather was, I'd say more like my best friend back then. I always talked to him about what I was feeling. And when he left, it was like I didn't have that anymore. Right? Now I have to keep everything up inside. So everything after that seemed normal until everything with my mother started to happen. When I really found out that I had a problem, when I really, really, truly understood that I need help, was what happened back in 2017. And I have a childhood friend, and he was suffering from depression before I knew. And remember, I told you, we don't understand until we go through it. So, one day, he was diagnosed with clinical depression, and his girlfriend had cheated on him. And, long story short, that's what caused him to go through that. He got diagnosed with clinical depression and was under suicide watch. So one day, me and another friend would gather around, and we're going to invite him to kind of get his mind off things. And he just doesn't answer the phone. So I go to tell my friend, hey, we need to go check up on him, see if he's all right. So we drive to his apartment, and when we get there, I get this feeling, just a feeling of like you can't breathe. That gut feeling you get. So I get that feeling, and we're knocking, and he's not there. But that feeling is just, it's bothering me. So I tell him, you know what, we gotta break this door. I'm not gonna. So we call 911, but the feeling that I had, I couldn't take it. We just had to go in there. So we break the door, and we get in there, we look for him, and I see his body hanging from the ceiling in his bathroom. And it's one thing when you hear about suicide, but when you see it, and that image stuck in my head for years. Still to this day, I remember the first few weeks after I saw that, I was waking up screaming in the middle of the night, crying, didn't know what to do. I felt like I was going insane. And the reason I say why that was the point where I realized I had a problem is because I started to think, what is my life going to be like? Then I started to get suicidal myself. So yeah, it's like you just don't realize what you're going through until something happens like that triggers you. So when that triggered me, and I had those thoughts, now I had to think for myself, and I had to think for him, So what would be if I'm suicidal? What would that cost to my family? So if I take my life today, I gotta come back in my shoes and see how did I feel when I saw that. And so I think the hardest part for us to deal with depression is finding help. I feel like we don't know where to look at times.
And I know, especially like in the African American community, counseling is like a bad word to a lot of us. Like we tend to say, oh, I don't want anybody in my business, or what can they say to me to help me? And one thing I want to say to you before I go forward is, I'm sorry for your loss. Losing anyone, a twin especially. My mom, as I understand it, was a twin and lost her twin very early in life.
but I know that that was something that never left her. It was something that, even though she didn't like know her, um, it was something that the loss was still there.
Right.
And so I understand that people feel like, oh, well, you didn't even know him or you didn't know the person, so why is it so hard? You know, loss is loss. So, you know, I'm sorry for that loss. And I know that all of the things that you've been through, I know that he'd be very proud of you for overcoming the way that you have.
Yeah, and the thing about that I tell a lot of people when they ask me, you know, about my brother, and you know, they ask me how was he, and I tell them I'm only lived 9 hours, so I couldn't really tell you. You know, the thing about that is, it pains me to know that I never actually knew him. You know, like sometimes I wonder, how would you know, what kind of person would he be today? Would he be a goofball? Would he be a serious person? And throughout the years, I always thought he was going to be like a silly one, just because I was always serious. So it pains me to kind of image that, you know, and knowing that, you know, I never even got to see that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know there are a lot of people out there that can relate to what you're saying. So I just wanted to see, what I wanted to ask you is, when you found help, was it easy for you to accept the help that you found? And how did you find that help?
Right. Well, that's the thing about it. You know, I've always been a very proud person. So it was really hard for me to look for help, you know, especially like you said, you know, we kind of feel that we don't want to be judged. So, you know, I actually started therapy about a year ago, and I think it was just talking and letting all that emotion out, talking to somebody, just really helped me out, you know, because I'm a huge believer in energy. So I believe if you have that negative energy stuck inside you, you know, it's gonna harm you. So when I released that energy, I felt way better. And I think the first step to actually dealing with depression is admitting that you have a problem. You have to admit that you have a problem, and I believe that's the hardest part. You know, in my case, it was I don't want to believe I have a problem. I just want to believe this is temporary, and you just don't realize that it's gonna get, you know, worse if you don't get the help you need.
Yeah, and you know, for a lot of us, we feel like, oh, I'm just sad today, tomorrow it'll be better, and I can handle this on my own. For some, they don't have the resources or the finances to go and get the help. But just by way of information, if you would just Google help for depression, there will be so many things out there. So many things that will help you with the financial part of it. Because a lot of times we use that as a crutch. I can't afford it, I don't have insurance, I don't want anybody in my business, you know. Coming from an African American part of life, we just feel as though we're supposed to be strong, like whatever comes, we can overcome. I don't know if it's that way in you know, in your culture, but the way I grew up, especially, I want to talk about that piece with the adolescence part of it. I remember that my parents used to say, "Oh, you're young. You don't have any bills. You don't have this. You don't have that. What is it that you have to be sad about or whatever?" And so we kind of invalidate what people are going through, especially our youth. And what I found out is that the adults that are going through depression, it didn't just start when they were adults. It started when they were younger. But they just didn't know how to verbalize that, or they felt that they couldn't verbalize that. So what would you say to anybody that will watch this video? What is the number one important thing that you would say to them about your experience and what they can, like, what kind of help is coming for them.
So, it's like you said with your culture, it's pretty much the same with mine as well. Especially in Hispanic culture, the man, we're supposed to be man. We can't show our emotions. We can't cry. If we cry, we're weak. And that's what I want to tell people. It doesn't make you, especially for the men out there that deal with depression. It's not, you're not weak for expressing yourself. And on the contrary, you're actually stronger if you let that out.
Yes.
And for me, that was the hardest issue, was talking to somebody. I'm a man. I don't want to talk about it. And the mind is a very powerful thing, and it's gonna get to you if you don't control it. So, that's the first step, is admitting that you have a problem. The next step is talk to somebody, anybody. That's what I tell people. If I could go back in time, I would talk to anybody that I came across, whether it was one of my family members, a friend, because in my experience, somebody's always gonna know something. So, for example, if you can't give me the help that I need, you might know somebody that will. So, I think that's the most important, is talking about it. And I think that's the biggest issue especially with teenagers. They don't want to express themselves because they're gonna feel judged, or they're gonna think that people are making fun of them. And I just want them to know that but that's not the way it is. Also, not everybody's gonna understand, because, as I said before, in order to fully understand depression, you have to go through it yourself. But there's always somebody that's gonna understand you, and that's the message I have for people that are dealing with that, is talk to somebody. And I'm always open in talking to people, and that's what I love about the profession I do now, is I get to interact with a lot of students and kids, and I get to see if they're going through stuff, and I get to help them. And that's my biggest reward for me. Was I decided I wanted to be here.
So I have a question. Earlier you talked about your Catholic faith. Was that something that you relied on during the years, and also during your time with your counselor, or things that you've been doing?
Well, that's the thing about me, I still don't know where I'm at in faith as of today. But I am a believer in God. And, I did grow up in a Catholic home. I was baptized as Catholic and everything. And, I've always had a love-hate relationship with God. And I think that was more of a, when it started with my brother, I just started asking, why did you take my brother? And as I got older, I just started asking more questions. Why am I going through this? Why am I here? Why am I not over there? Why is my brother not here? Or why didn't the low switch? And I think it was just all that anger that I had locked inside, just asking why. That was my biggest question, was why. And when I started middle school, I became, I went from Catholic to atheist. So I just gave up on believing. And it made me feel good at the time. But then you kind of, and this is another message that I have for the young generation out there, is, a lot of the time we give into peer pressure. To be honest, I was an atheist not because of my own decision, but because of my friends. They were convinced that, God is not real. He's not. If he was real, why are you going to God? I don't think that's somebody you should tell that to your friend. Instead you can tell them, if I was younger and if I had a friend that was going through that, I would tell them, hold on to your faith. Because at the end of the day, that's what you have. That's the only thing that you truly have is your faith. And I actually became and it was a miracle that happened that made me believe in God again. And I'm gonna tell you about that. So basically, growing up, you know how I told you I started to question all the negative things? Well, I started to question all the positive things, you know? Like, why, you know, if there was no God, it wouldn't make sense for the way life is, you know? And you think about it, and I think a lot about science and stuff, and I say, you know what? Something created science. You know, personally, I don't believe the Earth was created by a Big Bang like they say it was. I mean, it would just be too huge of a coincidence for that to happen and everything, you know, working the way it is in a circle. I mean, the Earth grows, you know, food sources from under the ground to help you exist. You know, we don't need Starbucks, we don't need McDonald's. The Earth literally grows all that, everything we need to survive. And when I think about it, is something definitely created this. I'm like, you can't. A big explosion is not going to make all that. Something definitely made this for us to live in. And as I got older, I kind of realized, you know what? Maybe these are just challenges that we're facing. You know, because the more I think about it, the more it makes sense, but the less it makes sense. That makes sense. So, in my turning point to believing back into God, kind of started like that. But where it really turned, I don't shed as much, but a few years after my best friend killed himself, I tried to kill myself. And basically, I had a mental breakdown, and I was just ready to end it all, you know. And I actually wrote down a message for God. I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of this life, baby. You know, I'm calling it quits right here. So I wrote that. It's kind of like a letter I wrote to God. And next thing I know, I pulled the gun to my head. And I made the decision to pull the trigger. So I kind of blacked out for a minute, and I opened my eyes. I look at the gun, I see it, and I drop to my knees when I see that the safety pin was still on.
Oh, praise God.
So it was at that point where I realized, you know, God said it's not your time. Yeah, and it's not going to be soon. So I think for me, that was my turning point, you know. And I think sometimes we just need to experience a miracle like that for us to realize that, you know, everything happens for a reason, you know. And we may not know what that reason is, but we just gotta trust that the reason is good. And after that, you know, I started to, you know, dive more into Christianity and started to read the Bible more and to learn more about things, about God and stuff. And that's actually taken a lot of stress from me too. You know, was putting more time into doing something that, you know, that took my curiosity. And that's what I want people to do. People that deal with depression is, you know, our biggest enemy is not doing anything. You know, because if we sit in our couches by ourselves, that's when we start to overthink instead of going out there and doing something about it.
So I just want to thank God that the safety was on.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that it took a lot to share that. And I'm grateful because I know that if it helps one person from this broadcast, if we help one person today, if you are that person that is having a hard time and is having a difficult time with depression, oppression, suppression, all of the shunts, I want you to understand that your deliverance or your healing or your breakthrough starts with one right choice. And like Elvin said, the first thing that he did that I feel was a right choice was that he admitted that he had a problem. And once you admit that you have a problem, I had a friend that would say, knowing is half the battle.
Right.
As long as you know that there's a problem, then you can begin to find solutions to fix the problem. And so that one right choice of him figuring out, hey, I have a problem. There's something wrong here. And all the things that he's come through, he realized that he had a problem. And that was right choice number one. The other choices were the choices that come after you make that one right choice. So like we say on this broadcast, where one right choice can lead to many, this is an example of that right here, sitting in front of you in the flesh, in the person of Mr. Elvin. And so if you're going through that, please make the one right choice right now. Just understand that you're not alone in this battle. You're not the only one that's going through, because a lot of times when we are going through things, we think that we're the only one that's going through it. We think that nobody else is going through this stuff, and I'm just in it. I'm in it by myself. Nobody can help me. None of this stuff is ever going to go away. We're here to tell you today, Brother Elvin and myself, and I'm sure he'll echo this, that is the biggest lie that you'll ever hear. So the same thing that you're going through right now, somebody has gone through it, somebody is going through it, and you're going through it for a reason. We don't necessarily know the reason why we're going through the things that we're going through, but there's a reason behind it. And so today, I want you to find somebody that you can talk to. I tell people this all the time. So when I lost my mother, I was 22 when I lost my mother to cancer. And so there were things that I needed to say that I felt like I couldn't say to anybody. And so I began journaling. And a lot of people think journaling is just crazy. Like, why would I want to sit there and talk to and write stuff down when nobody's gonna hear it, or in my case, your mom is never gonna read that. Why are you writing that? But can I say that was so liberating when I wrote things down, when I wrote down my feelings, kind of like a letter that you wrote to God.
Right.
Like I literally wrote letters to her. Just telling her things, deep things, how sorry I was for disappointments that I may have caused in life, just things that had happened. And that was very liberating. And I want to encourage somebody out there, even if you feel like you can't talk to anybody about what you're going through, write it down. Start journaling. I know people think of diary keeping when I say journaling. Not necessarily a diary, and a lot of people look at that as a female type thing to do. But once you start journaling, once you start writing all of those things down that you are going through, it liberates you. And so the next question that I have, so the one right choice was realizing that you had a problem, admitting that you had a problem. The next thing was kind of finding someone to talk to, working through it, even though there were other things that were going on in your life. The second choice was finding someone to talk to, treatment, being diagnosed, and everything like that. So my question to you is, how are you now, and how is your treatment going?
So I finished the first part of my treatment. I still got to do the second part, which doesn't start until the end of April. But after I started to talk and let those things out, show my emotions, let my emotions surface, I just started to feel a lot better. I noticed that within a few weeks, I started to gain a lot of the passion that I had for playing guitar, for sports, for, watching the things I wanted to do, for talking with friends, I realized a lot of the passion was coming back to me. So as you said, it was liberating for me to do all those things, let my emotions out. And, now that I can see things in a positive light, that instead of sitting at home, instead of doing, the overthinking and doing those things, I'm here with you, trying to share things to help others, instead of overthinking at home, because I could have just easily been overthinking at home right now. So it's all about the decisions you make every day about where to do, where to take your life, and what to do in life.
Yeah, and so he brings up a good point, overthinking. The Bible said those things that are, that are lovely and kind, and things that the Bible gives you things that you should meditate on.
Right.
Likewise, he gives you things that you should not meditate on. And you can just draw the conclusion, so if it's not kind, then it's bad, so don't meditate on those things. Okay, so let me tell you, we're not doctors, we're not psychiatrists, we're not any of them. But we know there are some out there that can help you with what you're going through. So we're pleading with you, we're praying for you. We may not know you personally, but I know that Elvin's story is going to touch one of you out there, some of you out there. And so I want to encourage you to please make that choice. Please look at your feelings. Look at people around you that you may be able to talk to. Look for a pastor, a friend at work. Because just like he said, if I'm not going through it, I may know someone that is going through it or someone that has gone through it, and I may be able to point you in the right direction. Or I may just be somebody that you can talk to, that you can just vent to. And sometimes we need that person to just talk to, no judgments, none of that stuff. We just need somebody to talk to. And so that would be my encouragement. The one right choice that will lead to many about depression is you finding, just making that realization that, okay, something is not right here. We don't want you to diagnose yourself. He had to go to find somebody to diagnose what he was going through. Like, something isn't right, but you might not be able to put your hands on it. And I know that in the community, there's a lot of grief. There's, especially these last couple of years with COVID and all of this stuff that's going on. It made a lot of people depressed or not feeling themselves. And so I want to encourage you, and I'm sure Elvin will give him a chance to encourage you as well. I want to encourage you to, a lot of times people say just deal with it, but I want to encourage you to begin to deal with it, begin to unpack those things that has happened. I know that when COVID happened, I was scared to death. Like, I didn't know what was going on, right? I didn't know what was going to happen with my children. I didn't know what was going to happen with the church. And it was that time that we had to sit in our homes. Some homes abusive, some homes not quite right. People just had to sit there for months at a time. And now that we're kind of coming out of there, I want to encourage you to get some help. And so, Brother Elvin, I just wanted to give you a chance to look into the camera and just say what you want to say to people that will be watching this broadcast.
Yeah, so if you're one of the people that are dealing with depression, don't blame yourself for anything that's going on. I know us that deal with depression, that's the first thing we do, is blame ourselves. I'm the problem. I'm the issue. No, you're not. You're not the issue. When you find out that you need help and admit that you have a problem, you're not admitting that you are the problem. So there's two differences between I have a problem and I am the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's our biggest battle is within our minds. When we put put ourselves down. I know when I was struggling, and as you said, with COVID and everything, we had more time to overthink.
Mhm.
And I know the feelings we get in our minds, we're not good enough. I know for me it was, my biggest issue was I'm fat. I can't do things. I feel so helpless. But once I started to realize that I don't want to be fat,
Mhm.
I started going to the gym and I started to exercise. I lost about 45 pounds just in the past few months, just, getting motivated to do things. But I figured out my problem was I'm sabotaging myself. I'm making myself, look bad when I'm really not. So that's what I want to tell people is, you know, realizing that you have a problem doesn't mean that you are the problem. So it doesn't say you're crazy like a lot of people may believe. You're not crazy because you're dealing with it. A lot of people deal with it just on different levels. And that's my advice to people is, open up, don't be afraid of being judged. At the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to judge. But that doesn't mean everybody will. There's going to be people out there that understand what you're going through. And that's the advice I have for everybody. If you're dealing with depression, really think about where do you want to be. My personal tip is think 5 years ahead. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And I've lived that model for the past 15 years. Since I was a kid, I've always thought that way. What do I want to be? When I was 6, I thought, what am I going to do when I'm older? And it could be something as simple as I want to learn how to play an instrument, or I want to learn how to play sports, or make more friends, or whatever. Or if you're going to school, my goal is to graduate or to get the job that I wanted. It starts simple, and keeping things simple is the key, in my opinion. Don't go for the things that are extremely hard. Keep it simple so that it'll be easier for you to complete it, and it'll keep you motivated to keep doing it. So, for example, if I want to lose weight, maybe I'll give myself the goal of losing 10 pounds instead of 50.
You're speaking my language because I need to do that.
Right. So, if I go to the gym and I don't lose the 50 pounds that I originally thought of, I'm gonna be upset. But if I lose the 10 that I said I want to lose, then I'll feel better because I did my goal.
Right.
So just keeping a small goal is very helpful, and you'd be surprised how busy it will keep you and it will keep you motivated to do things.
And one thing too, I like that. I like the do small goals because a lot of times when you tell people, oh, I'm gonna do this in 5 years, they can't see from here to 5 years. They don't like break it up. In year 1, we're gonna do X, Y, Z. Year 2, we're gonna do X, Y, Z. Year, 3, we're gonna do X, Y, Z. And so that's a great tip for those of you. And don't forget to like this video, share this video, tag your friends, tag whoever you need to tag that has been going through some of these things that we've been talking about. And so we are almost out of time. Man, Brother Elvin, we're gonna have to get you to come back again. And just walk us through some more of the things that you've been going through. So if you want to get in touch, if somebody wants to email you or get in touch with you, should they do that through us and we can give it to you, or do you want to give like your Facebook or any information to the people?
Yeah, definitely. So your husband is a really good friend of mine. So if anybody needs help, getting in contact with you guys, that would be the best thing. And I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody that needs counseling or that just needs somebody to vent to. I'd be more than happy to listen.
Awesome. And so if you have a comment or if you have a question, feel free to comment in the comment section. Also, feel free to send us an email at gracedchurch gracecchurch@gmail.com. So it's gracechurch@gmail.com. Also, you can send a text to 817-219-1006. And so we want to thank you again for coming, Brother Elvin. We know that you have made a difference, not only in my life, like some of the things that you said today, I'm going to take those things and implement it in my life, and even tell people about it. So we want to thank you for coming out. And to you that are going to watch this video, to you that are watching this video today, know that there is help. Know that we love you. Know that God loves you. And know that you are not alone in this. And so you have been watching the One Right Choice Movement broadcast, where one right choice can lead to many. We want to invite you also to join us on Sunday in person and online on our Facebook channel, YouTube channel, and Instagram. We want you to be able to join us. We meet here at 10 a.m. for service, and we go to about 11:45 for service. I want you to come and experience grace, where we are helping people discover and fulfill their God-given destiny. So on behalf of myself, Lady Roberts, and the senior pastor of this house, the Reverend Sammy G. Roberts, we want to say thank you for joining in. On behalf of our guest, Brother Elvin, we want to tell you thank you as well. And we'll see you on the next broadcast. Have a blessed weekend.